Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fascinating. It's a beautiful morning. It's nice and gray. I hope it rains.
You're doing fascinating. That's an
Yes, I'm
interesting word.
fascinating. It's a different one.
I
It's a
thought you
different
were
word.
hot.
I'm blazing.
Anyway, so tell me about yourself.
Okay, so I am a graphics designer in the United States Army. I soon want to become a PSYOP specialist. That is something I've been saying for the past year because quarantine fucked me over. Uh, but other than that, there's not much else to say about me. I'm just a guy.
Just a guy. Hmm.
Yeah. Do I sound
Okay.
mysterious?
No, your
Oh,
voice just broke, and no one who's mysterious, his voice has ever broke.
no bully.
So, uh, why do you want to become a PsyOps specialist?
Simply the fact that I'm interested in psychology, and there are certain elements of marketing within it. That and I, uh, because there are higher standards within that MOS, I thought it could also help me push myself too. But other than that, not too much. It's also a more suitable job for me compared to my actual current job.
So, can you give me a specific instance or a specific reason for why you like the idea of something helping you push yourself?
Well, it's simple. I'm lazy, and I do not get any results from the fact that I'm lazy. I have a lot of potential as a soldier, but I don't do anything about it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so what do you want to do with your potential?
Well, one, utilize my what's it called? The GI Bill, so I could use that for college, become a researcher, maybe even teach. Uh, Thought about becoming a psychiatrist. Not too sure on that one though. Still, uh, and then also for ROTC to become an officer, and that
And,
requires
oh,
lots of
go ahead.
responsibility. God,
Nope, you're good. Sorry. Keep
I said
going.
it. I said the
Oh,
words.
okay. Awesome. Amazing. Great timing. I'm NI Puller. Okay. Um,
You know it. I lie.
so, NI Puller, I lie. Negative NI subtype, NI polar subtype. Um, uh, so why do you actually, like, you say that you're lazy, and there's
Mhm.
probably some sort of internal struggle between wanting to do things, such as the things that you mentioned, and wanting to not do anything and just
Mhm.
be lazy and, I don't know, default to whatever you default to. So, I mean, it would be interesting to listen to what you usually default to as well. But first, I want to ask, like, why you want to accomplish things, because it seems like there's a struggle there. So, what is, like, that part? Like, what is the driving force between that part of the struggle?
Hmm. So I'd say it have to be. Uh, I can be extremely competitive. So whenever I see someone else who's performing even better than I am at times, I get annoyed. That's definitely one aspect behind it. Uh, that and I just want to do something. Just being lazy and doing nothing for months on end and only thinking can be tiring because you're not do anything with it. You want to implement those actual ideas rather than whatever the fuck I'm doing right now. You know, the most I do is walk, and I'm supposed to be in the military.
So, what's an example of something like an idea or something that you would think about that you would want to implement, but you never do because all you do instead is like walk on your good days?
Shit. Well, not necessarily an idea, but I did want to study more on actual. What is it? I wanted to go in depth with personality disorders and actually observe others physically in a college campuses. It's not something that's. Huh, wait a minute. Sorry, stupid.
Are you going on one of your walks right now?
Yeah, I'm on walkies.
Oh, nice. Good boy.
Repeat. Fuck. What was I gonna say? Okay, so that's one thing. I wanted to write something. I wanted to figure out certain patterns within the college campus and why they differentiate so much than others. Of course, it's typically because of what is the reason? Yeah, I need to study that. So that and I want to study more on epistemology. You know, none of this has to do with fucking standing up and walking. Now I think about it, or moving my ass. Yeah, I don't know how that corresponds. Anyway, that's something I didn't think long and hard on.
Yeah, that is an interesting thought. The idea of actually making a difference and you correlating that with, I guess, correlating laziness in terms of not doing anything with not doing anything physically.
Mm-hmm.
The two are, yeah. Go ahead.
My laziness extends not to just actual physical activity, but mental too. I think I would have a great understanding of a certain idea, but then I realize even more, that's the complete opposite. I just have a clear understanding of the surface. That's a fundamental to deal with anymore. So that's another thing I need to overcome. It's anything related to anything. There's a lack of depth whenever I try to attempt to understand something.
Seems like there's a wide variety of things that you want to make an impact in, but you're not sure which one to commit to.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, that attributes to the lack of depth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, numerous branches in philosophy. Then obviously, personality disorders, specifically in psychology. And this weird shit. Personality types, archetypes. Yeah. Then you have not much else after that. Of course, I want to do something in the military, but that's really it.
And why do you want to do something? Well, okay, just to preface this,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what you've expressed seems to revolve around humans and human nature and study of that, the mind of humans and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's something that seems, on the surface, like a completely different category, classic one of these is not like the others. And that's the military. And
well,
yeah.
The military is
interest
actually
in that?
linked with the humans, precisely because of the fact that we're dealing with soldiers and how they're a whole different archetype themselves. Not only that, I also wanted to understand mental illness in the military and how it could affect them. Particularly how it affects them to the battlefield. and how modern war is far more different than it was than other events within history. So I wanted to study the parallels between, say, this and maybe the Civil War.
Do you have some hypotheses on what you might, or what you do you have some observations on what you've seen thus far, or do you have some hypotheses on the parallels, or any conclusions or thoughts on the matter?
So the biggest difference is how wars are fought. Now has more so to do with technology, because we didn't have access to that strong of that powerful of technology as it was today. And there's also a lack of activity. So soldiers, or just any troops in general, are underutilized. And that could mess with their psyche, because this is what they prepared for during, like a good 2 years, or maybe even not even a year, just right after basic training. And it's especially prevalent within the Marine Corps. And infantry units, too. So the long wait and the fact that they're doing absolutely nothing while being deployed is what is typically causing this PTSD. And that also includes the anticipation of wanting to do something. So they're under constant stress with also the lack of activity.
I see. So it looks like those are some interesting thoughts. Well, okay. It seems like the military is a place for you, more like a data collection place, or just a a medium for further exploring these ideas of human nature that you find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Had another thought, but it escaped my mind. So I guess is there other? Yeah, it just seems like the military is just another outlet for that sort of exploration.
Yeah.
Is there like anything else about the military that you find that you appreciate from it, or is it just another medium?
It's autism hierarchy. I like to study the ranks. I want to understand the origins behind said ranks. Of course, a lot of the names are brought from European, particularly French, ranks. However, I noticed there are specific special ranks, if that makes sense. Particularly the controversy within the E4 rank, and that would be specialist. And that's mostly attributed to the Army, and being in the Army, I'm obviously going to be more interested, because that is also the most common of ranks. Speaking of which, I want to see why it's so different with the Marine Corps. Because most people in the Marine Corps are usually E3s or Lance Corporals, and which would be my rank within the Army, which is a private first class. So the same thing. But Lance Corporals are treated as if they are specialists, which is the equivalent of the Army. Yeah, it's the rank dynamic is interesting. And then how our ranking system differentiates with, say, just any foreign country. It's more simplistic. I've realized that. It's harder to tell whether someone's an officer or not, say within Australia. But it's extremely easy for us. I've noticed that with how simple everything is designed. I wonder when was that the turning point, because I know that wasn't always the case. Anyway, yeah.
I see. So, but I guess like the military isn't exactly a place where you can just be lazy. And so obviously you have to, go through you have to endure a lot of physical labor in order to extract
Get
your
paid for it too.
firsthand experience. Okay, yeah, that's true. So, how do you find the physical part of the military job?
Annoying. Uh, so I remember in basic training, we'd have to wake up every day. Well, basic training was 4:30. Get dressed 30 minutes. Actually, no, it was 15. 30. Our beds. We have to get in our PT clothes. And my unit in basic were filled with some of the douchiest drill sergeants. So they'd always make us, where if we just fuck up just a little bit, we'd have to run to the sign. And those assholes purposely called her Sheila. And we'd run back and forth, back and forth. Because of it, I had a very fucked up relationship with getting smoked and punished. It's another topic later. But I'm also thankful. 2 months right after I came back, I developed walking extremely fast, randomly doing push-ups, yeah, in public. Yeah, judge me. uh, that taking off my shirt in the beach at night when it wasn't necessary. I used to do that a lot. Getting there. This is not related to actual physical training, but when it comes to actual physical training, it helps me develop a habit of being active. I do more today than ever, which is saying a lot about my laziness when I was younger. And it's also allowing me to further explore my potential, or not necessarily explore. Enact? No. I forgot the term. You know what I mean?
I think you're cutting out for me. I don't know if it's cutting out in general, but you were cutting out a bit. So I caught that you would do push-ups and you would take your shirt off at the beach when it wasn't necessary, even though that doesn't necessarily,
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, what does that have to do with actual? I was trying to point out that it changed my my habits.
Right.
So it's definitely installed a higher sense of conscientiousness right after. And I was pointing out how how that just makes me look even lazier when I was young. But that doesn't happen.
So it does seem like productivity or conscientiousness is something that is constantly eating away at you, and is just something that you're always trying to strive towards.
Trying is a bold word.
Wow, trying. Trying is too much.
I haven't worked out in 5 days. It's horrible.
Man, this really does seem like something that plagues you a lot. Well, why do you think that there is such a... I guess I have asked you why you want to, be conscientious, but why do you think that there is such an internal struggle going on?
Oh, definitely my mom. Not just my mom, anyone really. So any family member that's just the least bit strict would always get it in my case because I just wouldn't do anything. Maybe, unless it caught my eye, I wouldn't actually do anything. I'd be stuck watching anime on my phone or reading some manga for the majority of high school. I really only have physical activity when I'd play basketball with my friends. It was something that would just eat me away because they're like, "Why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you doing any chores? Do I really need to clean my room when it's just going to get dirty in a week?" It would always be in my mind. Of course, that's not what they mean. They just want me to learn how to do things. Me to But it was just all still is every single day. Her writing me out because I wouldn't do something that's usually small too. It's always usually small things. Dog. Sorry, I'm barking. Okay.
So if like your mom hadn't or like strict parents hadn't tried to instill more diligence into you, what do you think would have happened?
If they tried to?
If they didn't try to, if they just just gave up on you, do whatever.
Well, less writing me out. That's kind of a plus. But I don't think she actually helps when she's constantly writing me out. If anything, I want to do the opposite, considering how petty she seems. Even though I understand that the whole purpose behind it was that she initially wanted to feel better, or do better, or wanted me to do better. But she just gets on my nerves. I don't. There's definitely a drive for independence, and if someone else is trying to enforce themselves with it, onto simple things such as like cleaning a room when I could just do it myself, I have the nerve not to do it, and I'll even tell them off. This is when I usually get argumentative. Is when someone else is trying to appease authority onto me.
So can you give like a just an example of one time that this happened, and like like what happened and what you said and what she said and all
So when I
that?
was 16, this is just, I'm pretty sure everyone has gone through this. She was trying to teach me how to cook. A simple, what was it? She was trying to teach me how to cook. What is that meal? It's similar to a burrito. I know how to cook burritos. It was a chimichanga. Yeah, I'm going to pronounce it like that. I was just not in the mood. It was a long day at school. I was tired. But I should have actually went through with it. But she was somehow really angry and just took everything away from me just because I wouldn't go along with her just to cook a meal, really. And I'd get really pissed off because it wasn't too reasonable. It was also such a surprise. She didn't have the audacity to tell me what I should, that it was gonna happen. And her reasons behind it, the typical because I said so, doesn't help at all. Yeah, but that was extremely common when I was 16, 17 years old. It was always small things that she... I think she was just looking for a reason to take shit away because I was always the most well-behaved out of my siblings. I was definitely the most reasonable. My brother was expressively violent. Even broke our mirror. And yeah, my sister's manipulative. But other than that, she just, I don't know if it was just her way of trying to install power on me or trying to gain respect. Because if anything, that didn't help.
Yeah. So, what did you, I guess, do when she tried to ask you or force you to take your things away? How did you react?
Well, I called her a bitch cunt and said she was retarded. That didn't help. But it was a long argument on why, because I said so, was retarded, and she didn't even bother listening to me. And that in itself has installed a negative perception with my mom and how she how she tries to assess her logic. Yeah, it's a long story. Too much.
Right. So, I guess seems like she's always trying to get you to respect her, and you don't. So, what is it about her that makes it so difficult for you to respect her?
It's not that I don't. It's more of the fact that I don't respect her authority or how she tries to. It just doesn't work. And it's never worked. She's never creative about any of her solutions when it comes to parenting me. I don't know where she has this idea that just yelling at your kid's gonna fix an issue.
So, I mean, you're in the military, and I'm pretty sure that you
Yeah,
have,
I know. It's
the
the
utmost
exact same
respect
thing,
for
right?
authority. So,
Okay,
what do you think is the difference?
so the difference is, well, one, it has more so to do with
You've completely cut out for me, by the way. I didn't hear the last
cars.
thing. I didn't hear any of it.
One second. Uh, well, it was intimidation. Is one aspect. My mom lacks the intimidation. Uh, she just yells at me, and she looks like a chihuahua in the process. And when you're dealing with them, it actually feels like you're dealing with, say, a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd, something clearly more intimidating. That, and they've clearly established that as a part of the rules. So that was a principle that they always followed through and they were always consistent with. But they, in the later in the later phases of basic, they've made it clear that a lot of our smoking also has more to do with our training, and that's something they've always emphasized on, which is technically true. Even in the DFACT, the way we had to hold 2 cups would be akin to how we would hold 2 grenades. And then the way how we sit down would help us drill in ceremony, particularly with the position of attention. There's always something that had a purpose. Not only that, they were open and reasonable when it came down to it. If there was always a problem, they would always address it and wouldn't just rat you out and call you stupid and close the door. Then we have the fact that they didn't really smoke us that much within the last period. And if anything, I never really did anything wrong, too. That was actually a massive problem I had with it. I hated getting fucking smoked. And this has more to do with AIT, where they installed oh god, the battle buddy system is abysmal in AIT. Extremely counterproductive. But they also punished you where it can actually help you. My mom just took away shit. And taking away things is actually like the worst thing you could do with me. It just makes me rebellious. If she, I know this is going to sound weird, if she made me just do some physical activity, that probably would have helped me so much more.
I'm gonna take away your meth for this month.
Yeah, fuck. Don't take away my weed, Mom.
I didn't say weed, I said meth.
We don't speak of math. That's bad.
But speed, I am speed.
Ka-chow.
Bless you. So, what about with your father? What is your relationship like with your father?
My stepfather, he doesn't pay attention to me that much. He doesn't really ask me for help. We don't really communicate. I mean, he was a drunkard. That annoyed me when I was younger. But that's honestly it. I don't even interact with that guy. So, like, whenever he tried to criticize me, it wasn't any different than my mom. If anything, he was worse at it. He's kind of stupid, so he wasn't too reasonable himself. In fact, my mom's because she has a history with being intellectual. She's well read on certain concepts, so she can at least have a conversation with me. Him, I don't know. I don't know how to interact with that guy. He's the big dum dum. I get it. It sounds arrogant, but that's quite literally the reason. It's poor communication between the two of us.
And does he feel like a Rottweiler or a Chihuahua when he tries to reinforce things?
I don't fucking know what the hell he is. He's like a lizard. It's alien. It is absolutely alien. Alas, it's stupid. A chihuahua. Ugh.
Interesting. So, what are some activities that or what are some topics that you enjoy discussing with your mom? Because I guess you mentioned that you enjoy discussing things, and if people don't, you don't respect them as much.
Most of the topics that I discuss with my mom, it's one-sided. I enjoy them quite. They're so pleasant. She gets pissed at me, and it's precisely because of the fact that, one, I am a bit too open to what she may deem to be extreme ideas. It doesn't matter which quadrant of the political compass they're on. She does not appreciate it, and she believes I'm prone to doing something nasty and bad. When I've established that I'm the least violent person in our family. That's mostly the case. It's mostly political, which personally I'm not too big on, because politics, a lot of individuals have such a strong personal alignment with their political views. It's harder to actually reason with them. And in the process, it's just pointless to discuss at times. If anything, political views, when I'm discussing someone's political views, it's more as a means to understand who they are, as opposed to trying to really discuss their actual ideas and see whether they are wrong or not, or I believe they are. I will not share my political views. uh, let's just say a, I'm kind of I'm all over the place. My political views have ranged initially from, I'll just use identification to simplify everything. But originally, my political views it's mostly just centrism, the political radical skepticism sphere. I was mostly involved with that because of of the fact they were ruining my video games. Not a but over time, I became just a simple conservative, which is ironic because my actual actions and my actual views don't necessarily correspond with each other. If anything, I don't really have a strong personal attachment with my views, with a few exceptions, and I just believe that's how they can affect society. And they were still installed when I was actually, I'm saying actually a lot, a libertarian, and that lasted for like a good year. I wasn't really that much of a libertarian, if anything. Yeah, no, I need to develop my political views. Honestly, if anything, I'd rather learn a political philosophy just as a means to explore it whenever I'm writing. I've attempted to do that with monarchy before, and results were absolutely poor. Yeah, literature, huh?
Hi, I'm back. Sorry, I had to go for a bit. Did you? The next question I was going to ask you was to share some of your political views from.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, like different parts of the. Okay, cool. Like not just like one side, but yeah, okay, different quadrants. Okay. What about like friendships? What sort of friends do
Friendship.
you? Yeah, like to tell me
Oh,
about your
wow.
friendships.
People that I know will stroke my ego. Is a better definition. This is a different one. Well, I have a history of not having a lot, or not too much. Hmm. As of right now, I have both IRL group and Discord group. I typically hang out with the Discord group more, and that's because it's easier to hold a conversation with them. There aren't as many limitations. We share similar humor, so that's great. However, that's not the case with my IRL friends. They, more often than not, they tend to appreciate my antics. However, there's one guy that gets on my case all the time whenever I just say something that's remotely offensive to him. Everyone else is usually cool. There's clearly this cultural barrier. After all, most of our understanding. We dwell different aspects of the internet, or parts, I should say. So they, more often than not, don't understand my references. That could be frustrating. Just feels awkward time to time hanging out with them. That they don't really know me too well. It's interesting because I've known them since middle school, but they never bothered to understand the depths of Shiko. Outside of that, honestly, I could say that the same with anyone really, but at least with my Discord group, they understand my humor.
Cool. So, can you give an example of something that you find, something that, I don't know, maybe like a reason why you think it's difficult for you to make, like, get along with most people or make friends with most people? Or
One, social anxiety. So that's mostly on me. Well, anything is really on me. I also lack a filter. It's not because I seem to be unaware. Whenever I think something is funny, I'll just blurt it. And I've offended quite a wide range. And that's especially prevalent with women. Uh, Not really with guys, uh, but there are certain guys that get offended for other people, and I get annoyed with that. Uh, it should be, yeah, no. There's that. Uh, then there's also my interest. Very few people seem to be interested in all of my intellectual hobbies. And it's just more so to do with the fact that they simply don't find it to be interesting. It has little to do with they deem it as unnecessary, and they may perceive me as just someone who overthinks too much. But what's the term? Fuck, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, uh, a disconnection with an interest is mostly the case. Um, I've always been known to be quite nerdy, especially with my interest in otaku culture, uh, desire to understand literature and the archetypes behind it, how it also corresponds with reality, typology, psychology. I was extremely big on mathematics younger, and I even thought about coding for a brief period, but I never followed through with that. I don't know what happened with my interest in math. I was always decent with it. I can't really say I was anything great. uh, that's mostly because I was in a continuation school, so I was still in lower lower ended classes. So I never had the chance to really prove myself. Uh, what's the term? Yeah, prove myself with higher level subjects. There we go. So my philosophies and philosophers I like. Woo, laddie. So Kant is one. I'll explain my reasons for Kant. While I'm critical towards his rigidness. I also appreciate it considering how strict he is with his own logic. And how, what's the term? And how outlandish his ideas may appear. Particularly his metaphysics and his epistemology. And it's more of a response to Hume's and there's another individual. I'm forgetting his name, but it was a response to both pure reason, any form of rationalism, and empiricism. So his form of epistemology is this weird combination. It's mostly still rationalism because it still operates on idealism, but he installs an aspect that can explain any of the empirical aspects. But I mostly think of him. I'm the most familiar with him. And I tend to use him as a basis for the understanding of my ideas. But as of late, I've quite bored. I've been looking onto, I can't really say existentialism because I haven't been really reading existentialism, but I noticed I've been exploring concepts of death, drive, meaning, more so as of late. Especially within my writings. That's excellent. But outside of that, there's not too much. I've attempted to explore Hume. I've attempted to explore Descartes. I've attempted to explore Ludwig Wittgenstein. There's a wide variety. I used to be really interested in existentialism when I was younger. But it mostly manifested with Jordan Peterson's understanding of existentialism. So I don't believe I gained something. I gained a perspective and a basic understanding of Jungian, Nietzschean, why am I forgetting that? Dostoevsky's understanding of existential philosophy. I think it certainly has an impact on me, particularly because of that time of my life. But outside of that, it's mostly just a tool or to explore. Yeah, weird. It gives me something to explore within my writings. I do that with most philosophies. Well, I do attempt to understand them so I could help spread the knowledge. I enjoy writing it more. What's next?
Sorry. No, are you finished, or if you're not, go ahead.
No, I'm good. Go on.
Okay. I would like to revisit something we mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about how you were very lazy, and you don't normally live up to your own standards of what you'd like to accomplish and actually do.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you spend the time that what time are you spending doing things that you feel bad about? Like, what are you doing with? I don't like. Does that make sense? Like, what are you doing during your time that you feel like you're?
When I am exploring,
Or no, when you're not doing what you want to be doing, what are you?
On Discord. Discord. Looking up random videos on the internet. Uh, Watching a shitload of anime. Anything related to otaku culture is something that I'd probably waste my time on, or just shitposting on the internet. That's the gist of my day. Lately, I don't even really explore or ponder on anything because my brain is so burnt out just from just from being on Discord. So I'm experiencing high levels of fatigue. However, there is something interesting about Discord. Well, it's not just limited to Discord, it's also any image board that I've encountered internet and the impact that it has just on society. So I would often, God, I'm extremely nosy. So whenever there's something off going on within the server I'm in, I have a habit of trying to understand why something's off. And I typically would find a piece of information and how it relates to another piece of information. In turn, I'm usually the one investigating and solving the history. But in the reality, it's not that the fact that the server's really all that weird, because everyone else is normal. I just noted a small thing that no one else has, because it's somehow installed into my memories. Like, say, for example, this individual is normally active. At the same time, this individual is also normally active. Yet both of them aren't. So I would use that data and try to confirm it with the other individual if there's something wrong with them, or if the two of them have issues. So I just pay attention to very trivial bullshit, but it still works for me in the end because I gain information out of that. But yeah, that's honestly what I do. It's just gather information on Discord and shitpost. But I do it for quote-unquote intellectual reasons. And that's just to explore internet archetypes, which manifest in memes. Kind of cringe, but I find it to realize that many individuals aren't who they self as. That's why I'm so nosy.
And what do you enjoy about Discord, or what is like so easy about it for you to just like go onto it and veg?
Well, once you've established yourself within a community, it's easy to communicate with someone, or at least it's quick, especially if it's an active server. So you're guaranteed to have a decent conversation every now and then. And that's honestly it. It's quite degenerate, really. It's not healthy for anyone. But I just find the more unhealthy aspects to be interesting, especially when that changes their overall behavior.
Sorry, I can't hear you at all right now.
Oh, fuck, I'm right next to the main street. 1 second. I was stating that I... Oh, fuck, I lost my train of thought. My bad. I just find the contrast between these individuals' healthy states, or not necessarily healthy, but their persona, with the contrast within their persona to how they would react when they're under stress or when they're in a more unhealthy state. So it breaks the character. That's something that I've been really invested in. And then there's, I can't really say it's a poor habit. Maybe it is. I usually, I'm very not interested. Wow, my narcissism is showing. I'm a very easy person to talk to. Most people that talk to me seem to find it to be comfortable to share anything with me. Not anything, but with most things. So because of that, I have a habit of trying to help them figure themselves out and analyze their psyche. Sound like an armchair psychologist. With no strings attached. I don't do anything with my patients. With the God, it really does sound like that. Holy but mostly, for the most part, it's helping them understand themselves. And utilizing Stoic philosophies, one, how that can actually help. Because it's interesting, because Stoic philosophy has, I'm pretty sure it uses cognitive behavioral therapy as one of its ideas. It's not really unique to them, but that was something that Marcus Aurelius has pointed out, particularly that we have control over our own thoughts, how we react to specific things. Now, say someone's trying to be purposely offensive to you. He says, well, you actually have more control. You're choosing to be offensive. Not that I completely agree with the idea. Oh, here, call. I'm back. Not that I completely agree with the idea, but I understand where he's coming from. I do believe that there are certain times where people just can't control what they're offended of. I think the reaction is more important. They can still feel offended, but they themselves can tell them, yeah, they're just fucking around. And they're mostly just joking, for an example. But I often use that as a way to help it, because most people are typically concerned with the perception of others. And that's an easy way to be offended, because they may deem it as incorrect, or it doesn't go according to their own morals or their own perception of themselves. Right? So I'll tell them that it's, one, the other guy is typically just being a cunt about the entire issue, or two, you yourself are just being overly sensitive. You're not reacting. You're allowing them to give a reaction. That's precisely what they want for the most part. But I speak on matters with my interactions with at least two other people.
Seems like you really enjoy getting to the core of something and looking at, your interest in people and psychology and all that seems to be sort of centered around seeing who people really are, or a side of them that you
getting behind the caricature.
Yeah, basically. Well, I think I've gotten a lot of good info here, and you've shared a lot of stuff from what I could hear.
Mm-hmm.
Cut out.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to add that you felt like you didn't get the chance to elaborate on?
No, I think I've spilled enough. I'll let you guys have this information.
Yeah, tell me your biggest deepest, darkest secret.
Ciao.
Bless you. Bless you, Jesse Eisenhower. Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, huh?
Yes.
He is
Heisen,
the general of the army. Wow, that's a shock. That's some shocking news.
Yeah, he actually he's the kingpin of a huge meth operation. Eisenhower was in the military. Anyway, thank you for sharing. That
I shared
concludes.
too much.
That
You can't
concludes.
live anymore.